A very, 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 very good morning. It's live action, and I have a man on here second to none. And I know that I say that quite regularly, and I'm not overselling here. Let me give a bit of background to this gentleman before I do a proper introduction. I have Cato Syversen, who's on this call with me today. And the background to Cato, first and foremost, good morning, Cato.
Morning.
Just wanted to give you a little quick intro of Cato, and I'm not going to put on the sort of the big sort of Michael Buffer voice, but Cato, at the 28 years age, over in Norway, when he was a bank clerk, he was living his life over there in a sort of semi-mundane fashion as a social democrat. He was a bank clerk. He was living his life. People do that. That's life. But what happened was, we had a cataclysmic moment, and he said to himself, I was born with a talent for sales. What happened was, he ultimately developed those skills, and in 2001 was offered the opportunity to take on basically a stagnant business called Creditsafe that was based in London. And he has now grown that over the last 20 years to now a business that is basically the go-to business and the most used business for reports across the globe. He's got a number of charismatic nicknames. It's not for me to get into those. He'll share those. But he's been known for his disrupting the market, getting into the mix of things and making things more exciting. 20 years at the helm. It's been an absolute pleasure to get him on. And he also wanted me to emphasize that he did, in his younger day, used to be a punk rocker. Another story. But anyway, we're going to ask the first question. Cato asked this interview to be titled, You've got to write the tunes, not just do the karaoke business. Cato?
Yeah, no, I think it's important to stand out, to be inventive, really find new ways of solving the customer's needs. And it's very easy to just look at the competitor and saying, I would like what they got. And sometimes we take inspirations from what they've done, but we just pride ourselves to do it a bit different. That's not just in the product or how you present the data, it's also how you package it, how you sell it, and how you let them consume it. I'm also a strong believer that sometimes you got to not just do these things with your brain, you also got to follow your heart, because it is very much about telling the best story. So that's very important.
And when you come to that best story, obviously we could sit here all day and talk about the story from 2001 to 2021. The ingredients are vast. It's pretty much box set material for Netflix. But you have been famed for being a passion king, a passion fruit, so to speak, when it comes to being a CEO. You've created such ingredients, such enthusiasm, and you decided very early on when you were CEO to move from London to Caerphilly. Why Caerphilly in Wales?
Well, I think especially in a startup period, you need a lot of passion. You need people with drive and a fair bit of attitude. And my experience is you don't necessarily find that easy in a big capital city like Oslo or London. You go to places where people, have that extra hunger, bit extra gratitude as well. So it's just easier to get things done and people truly more engaged if you go a place where you normally wouldn't go. So we obviously today have offices in London and in Manchester and other places. But, as a startup, it was really good to come down here to Wales and even go up in the valleys to Caerphilly. Because
and of course you still live there. And would it be fair to say that there was an appetite, a hunger, a tenacity, an excitement to work for the brand because of a number of variables, and that's the sort of staff that you were looking to tap into?
Yeah, and I've sort of, yes, I worked in a bank for 6 years, but it was boring. and a huge inspiration for me to start something else, where people have that passion and wake up in the morning on a Monday and go to work. And that's not easy to create. But that's what I've got in Caerphilly. Therefore, when we started France, I traveled all through France to find Caerphilly. And the same in Italy as well. It was about finding some place where there's a big drive, and there's a commonality about sort of something quite industrial past, where you're finding that hunger and drive, where you just stand out as an employer, don't you?
And just on that note, you brought up an interesting part of the journey that I've read a lot about it. Obviously, as you know, I've been part of the journey, but the Italian one really I always find that quite interesting. From my knowledge, you did a lot of research. You sent out a sort of like exploration team to find that sort of industrial hub, that sort of area of hunger. But from what I can gather, and I think you're very much underplaying your involvement is in these sort of things. You actually lived and breathed the Italian way of life for 6 months, learnt the language, etc., etc. Tell us a little bit more about how that went.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having a little place in Tuscany for 17 years anyway, so I knew the Italians quite well. They don't speak very often a second language, just like in the UK. It's actually just as bad as the UK. The principle of saying that all managers need to speak English, you would sacrifice a lot of good talent just to have somebody that can speak English. So we said, okay, we're going to break that rule now, that they have to be able to speak Italian if they are in key functions, and let them be themselves. And therefore, I decided to learn Italian myself so I can do kickoffs and speak to them, to make interviews in Italian. I always wanted to learn Italian anyway, so it was just good fun.
And close to Turin and close to Juventus, it was handy. So you were, I know you're a Cardiff City fan. Did you ever enjoy any Juve matches?
No, I mean, obviously I prefer the underdog, so I straight went from Torino FC and Ultras Granatas.
I like it. I like the underdog. I like that story. Italy, of course, one of many stories. But what I would say is, again, back to the passion. How have you maintained it throughout the evolution of credit reports? Then there's been new data's come out, prospects have come out, your software's come out, this country's opened, that country's opened. How have you created? You've obviously got people to buy into it initially. How have you developed those people's careers? How have you got people to stay passionate? To me, is it a lifestyle? Is it do you get people to almost get into a kind of like a way of life within your culture?
I mean, I always like a bit of craziness. A bit.
I can confirm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably once upon a time I recruited you as well, Mickey. If you surround yourself with people that has the right sense of humor, right sense of passion, it breeds more, doesn't it? So we sort of give energy to each other. You got to have the right mix, though. We can't all be crazy, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's that.
No, totally. It's energy and positivity is absolutely critical. I'm a great believer in the law of attraction when it comes people buy off people, all those sort of cliches. Before I ask you, I've only got a couple more questions because I don't want everybody to be sort of like getting too bogged down in their day. But I'll never forget, I honestly mean this, it's probably in the top 20 bits of humor I've experienced in my life. I'll never forget, I was out for a few drinks with you in Dublin and your son was over. And it was whenever One Direction was launching, courtesy of Simon Cowell, and we were out having a few drinks. Your son was kind of embedded with staff, and I was there, and I might have had one or two baby Guinnesses, as one does. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to maybe do a bit of humor here. I just thought, Cato's son is an absolute button for Harry Styles. So I just thought to myself, bit of humor here. I'll go over and I'll mention to, younger ladies, obviously, 19, 20, something around that neck of the woods, that Harry's in the house. And I'll tell you, I will not forget the reaction. Chaotic. Do you remember that night?
Of course I do. And you also got to mention that I forced him to dress up as well. So he was, I think he was 15, and there were some cringy moments for him, but I've got some really good photos from that night. And yeah.
Yes, it's a wonderful night. And I'll be honest with you now, it's the only time I've ever come close to getting a selfie with Harry Styles. Cato's son, Harry Styles. Sorry for the aside there. Credit management does need the occasional ingredient that's different. And on that note, and it's a good link, pandemic. Everybody is, I suppose, apathetic about the pandemic and COVID and how did you do this and how did you do that. But you decided upon a company radio station, which I'm sure other companies have done it, but why this? And give us some of your vibes on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was something we've been talking about for many years before anyway, and it was the perfect time to do it. It was actually Emma in Belgium that came up with the idea of Safe FM. And yeah, in a busy world, we never got to it. But then, okay, we bought, it's quite cheap to buy a radio station access, and we set it up. And it was, the first lockdown, Easter, it was quite miserable. And, we weren't allowed to almost leave the house. And we managed to have 4 days with 24/7 party music distributed from 12 different countries with different DJs. Because we got different time zones, don't we? So just kept on going.
Yeah, I like it. And also, again, I don't want to go on a tangent. I'll not forget the time. I think it was the 15th year anniversary where you did your sort of DJing from the front at one of your parties, famous parties that you put together for your staff, which of course have become the talk of the tabloids. Have even ended up in the newspapers because of their really, really enjoyable experience in team building. But I'm going to finish on two sensible questions now. I want to get back on track, even though the energy is very high. And that is one of your famous quotations I've noticed from other interviews you've done is you've been known to say there are needs that customers don't know they have. Yeah. I know it might sound a bit simple. There are needs that customers don't know they have. Explain your understanding.
Well, first, I did steal it from Steve Jobs, because he said, you can't just do customer surveys, because what we're going when we're designing these new Macs and these iPhones, we know more about what technology can even do. So yeah, I think, of course, you need to talk to your customers about their needs, but sometimes by informing them of what the potentials are now, with artificial intelligence, or, getting our customers to not just pull credit reports, but to start using the APR, saving the data, saving historical data, so they can, understand from the point of prospecting, even to collecting the cash, who am I dealing with? Just know your customers, but you also need the historical data and big volumes of data when you're moving to looking at artificial intelligence or machine learning. And this is where we see a clear trend. There's like 80% of our usage is now through through the API, not through normal web searches. So, we're providing 250 million reports these days. And that is just rocketed way quicker than we grow. The next stage is then doing more of the data cleaning. So, you just keep on keeping your data fresh, but also storing the history. So you want to look at, the ones we sold to 5 years ago, which one are the ones that grows, which are the ones that leave us, which are the ones that don't pay. You need depth of data. And these are the new trends, together with the new technology that is very exciting. So, we're not just providing credit reports anymore. It's master data management,
And on that note, And to finalize a little bit, it's fair to say your growth was absolutely immense. You know, you're all over the place. You're in numerous countries now. I mean, I lost track. You know, you pretty much got a global coverage, and you are the biggest user. Is it safe to say now it's also about sort of drilling down now to your present customer base, growing, yes, but also more developing and ultimately making sure they're maximizing ultimately what you've just said? Is that really the key?
Exactly.
The key.
I mean,
sorry.
We have a principle in sort of our data strategy and our product strategy where we should always do it on ourselves first. We have to eat our own dog food. So Creditsafe on Creditsafe. And we're doing some really interesting stuff ourselves now in Dynamics, where we look at, for instance, where do we have customers around the world? What does the prospect look like in the same country? You know, so you can literally contact them and say, I'm calling because you're a Creditsafe customer. No, I'm not. Yes, you are in France. Those things have huge value. And obviously my sleepless night is not bad debt. It's my top line, isn't it? You know, the customers I lose and the customers I gain. Am I gaining the right customers for the future? And those kind of things.
And growing those. Absolutely wonderful. To be honest with you, I mean, literally, and I'm sure other people wouldn't be as big fans. I could talk to you all day. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. I've tried to select numerous questions. I could have asked you a vast amount of questions. 20 years. I also see it on the back there. Cato Syversen, 20 years. All those photographs. Telesales king of disruption when it comes to the world of credit data. I really do appreciate it. It's also very important to emphasize. This is, of course, an Atreides Collections stress ball. If you have any stresses when it comes to KYC, Creditsafe is the place to reach out to, and they will help you on the journey of KYC right through to wherever you want to go, as shared with Cato. And Cato, I'd like to thank you for your time. I mean that sincerely. You are, of course, a partner of ourselves in a number of European countries. We're looking to grow that, as you know, and we're going to talk soon, I have no doubt. And in the short term, I would just like to thank you for your time and what you've shared, the knowledge, and most importantly, the honesty.
Okay, it's been a pleasure.